Welcome back to another episode of Talking Shirt. Today I'm joined by Josh from CULTKITS. He has had an amazing end to his day because not only has he watched some football, but did they win? Did they lose? Please tell us what you watched and what happened.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm an Ipswich Town fan, if you can see that. And we just played Swindon Town, who are second from bottom in League One. We were about sixth. We lost 3-2. It was an absolute disaster, quite honestly. But you know, we're kind of getting used to it for the last 2 or 3 years. It's been absolute rubbish. So just getting used to it really. But just before I carry on, this shirt, if you're listening to this, you won't be able to see it. But if you're watching this shirt, it says it's the 40th anniversary of us winning the UEFA Cup, and we've just lost 3-2 at home to Swindon. So. Sobering thought that.
That's pretty interesting. Like for me being an Australian, like I still learn a lot about the history of football across the world. And it's crazy to think that, you know, I fell in love with United because of my parents, and I've told this story many times. But there's so many other clubs out there that have done that sort of history sort of past, where like Nottingham Forest. I did not know about Ipswich Town's history. So they won the Euro or the UEFA, sorry.
Yeah, the UEFA. So basically, in the late 70s and early 80s, we were good, and we were good. We were managed by Sir Bobby Robson, who then went on to manage England. Yeah, and he basically took up. We were a small kind of provincial town, and he transformed the club, and we won the FA Cup in 1978, and we won the UEFA Cup, which is what I was just referring to, in 1981. And we were genuinely one of the best teams in Europe. In fact, I think Adidas, who manufacture one of the reasons that this kit has this reference is because Adidas make our kits again, and they made our kit in 1981. And I can't remember exactly what this is. My dad told me about it, but Adidas had a team, they rated and ranked the number one team in Europe, and it was Ipswich in 1981. So we used to be good. We really were. And even in 2001, we finished fifth in the Premier League. We qualified for UEFA Cup. We beat Inter Milan at home 1-0. But since then, we got relegated the following season. And since then, it's been a pretty slow decline. And we are this is probably the worst Ipswich team I've ever seen. Or there's ever been.
I'm pretty sure an Aussie played there recently, Tommy Orr.
That's right. Yeah. He had a few games for us. Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to do some work with him in the past for the Socceroos. But look, I think when it comes to football, the best thing about it, and even me being based over here in Australia, I've learnt about the game. I've learnt about the culture, and you know, the kit scene has really allowed me to learn a lot more about people. And I think I've learnt a lot of history about certain clubs through their kits. And I think that now that you mentioned about the kit and Ipswich Town, I think Adidas did have that connection with a lot of teams early days and Umbro. But I think Ipswich Town, do you have a favourite kit before we get into the next sort of subject? So do you have a favourite kit? Was that the reference one? Oh, you have one in the background. That's all right.
I have. Well, actually, what I think was the best ever Ipswich kit, I don't own, unfortunately, because it's very rare. David, who's one of the co-founders of CULTKITS, actually he's an Ipswich fan as well. He has it on his framed on his wall. But it was from about 80, I think it's 84, 86, something like that. And it was, you might remember the France shirt from that era as well, with the red stripe and then the three white stripes. Yep. It was a version of that, and it's beautiful. But I don't own that. But from kind of my supporting memory, the two shirts that I have, which are probably my prized possessions, which I'll show you.
Perfect.
First is this. So this is 92 to 94, back in the Premier League, the inaugural Premier League. Ipswich Town wore this, and I just love it so much. I've never worn it. Yeah, shoestring, exactly. And then the other one is here somewhere. So I've never even taken the tags out of this. So this is I think it was about 89 to 92 or something. We had a third shirt, which is a bit weird because I don't really know why we had a third shirt. Anyway, it was a third shirt, and this was it. Wow. It was like classic Umbro of that era. Lovely kind of graphic. Hang on a minute, on the sleeve here, which I don't know if you can see that. Just brilliant. Still got the tag. I just cannot bring myself to either wear it or take the tag out of it. So they are my most treasured Ipswich Town shirts. Yeah.
Look, that would be much more special if you haven't worn it. Like for me, I think there's only one kit that I haven't worn, and that's the one that I bought off the Cult Kit website, the PSG kit that I'll show during this episode. And
Yeah.
look, honestly, when I came across the website and I was like, oh my God, I think that was my first instance of coming across football shirts in a way, in a manner of speaking, that it was promoted in an art form. And, I think that was a couple of years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago now. I've been collecting shirts for maybe my whole life, but not in a way that it is now. I think it's been a bit glorified now. And I think we've finally come to a part where we've sort of joined the scene, like the Pokemon collector cards and stuff like that. I think now we've come to a time where shirts have basically hit the stock market in a way that we're all talking about the value, the decrease. It's almost become its own entity in many ways. But let's talk about you. So tell us about your role in the kit scene and how you came about creating cult kits with your friends.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just to completely agree with what you just said. That's the only shirt I have which I've never worn. I don't tend to buy shirts to have them in a kind of box. I do like to wear them. That one I just can't bring myself to do it. But yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. I think football shirt collecting has almost become a bit like when like very wealthy people, i.e. bankers with no taste, kind of just accumulate art just because they know it's got a value, but they don't really appreciate its kind of beauty. And I think there's a similar thing with football shirts. That sounds a bit pretentious, but yeah. So how did we get started? Well, basically, so I was a journalist by trade a few years ago, and my now brother-in-law is a graphic designer. And we're both massive football fans, and we used to buy each other football shirts pretty much every Christmas and birthday.
It's amazing.
Actually, it's his birthday just gone, and I just bought him the new France shirt, which I love. So we still do that. So, but then we said, well, why don't we kind of combine this kind of our kind of skill set and this passion that we have for football shirts, and let's create a kind of website that's about football shirts. So that's what we did, and then we kind of met Rob, who's the third guy, who was already kind of selling shirts, and we kind of came together. And Rob's got a great, the photography. I think I'm biased, obviously, but I think our photography is really good, and I think our imagery on social is really good. And that's to do with Davey, who's the graphic designer. And anyway, we all kind of pulled our sort of collective experiences and passions together, and that's how Cult Kits was formed.
That's beautiful. I think the story of you and your brother-in-law buying kits is special because me and my mate Paul, and we've met each other through like a school here. It's called RMIT. I was going to say about that and realized half the viewers and listeners probably don't have a clue what the place is. But I went to a school and we became friends because we both wore football shirts, and when we were both studying photography, we're like, it's almost like the stepbrother scene. It's like, did we just become best friends? I think that's the best thing about football shirts is that it's a mutual sort of agreement in many ways. And it's almost like that step back that you look at a shirt and you think to yourself, like, we both have this appreciate and understanding of something in a different form, but to us, it's like a holy grail. But that's a really good story. I wish and hope that future brother-in-law of my wife's sister, hopefully we have this connection. But do you remember what the first shirt that you bought each other, or do you remember what the first shirt was?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I bought him a really nice AC Milan. I think it was an Adidas. I think it was a reissue actually, in fairness, but it was like a white. I think it was a white AC Milan shirt, and it was just it was absolutely beautiful. And then I think I bought him a really nice, and he's not a Man City fan at all, but I got him the Umbro Man City shirt from about 91, 92, just because I knew he loved it, and we both really love the sort of that 90s era particularly, and we both love Umbro. So yeah, I think that was it. I can't remember the first shirt he bought me. I'd have to. Yeah, sorry, Davey. I think it might have been an AC Milan shirt, which I think I might.
You might have it.
It could potentially have been this. I know he bought me this, but I don't remember exactly when. But it could potentially have been AC Milan Lotto from about 93, 94, something like that.
I hope Lotto makes a comeback.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So yeah, probably one of those. But yeah, there've been some kind of weird and wonderful, some MLS. I think there might have even been an Aussie shirt possibly as well. I can't remember now. But Yeah, so it's nice. It's nice because the thing is sometimes it's difficult to, I probably shouldn't say this, but sometimes it is difficult to justify the expenditure on a football shirt, particularly as you get older and you have other kind of responsibilities. But when somebody else buys it for you, then that's absolutely fine, isn't it? And so Christmas and birthdays were always and are always exciting when I know I've got a shirt coming.
I think even buying shirts for someone else is a bit always daunting because for me, if someone bought me a shirt, I don't really have a certain specific criteria. Actually, I'm wearing this kit because my friend recently bought it for me, and I didn't even ask him to buy me a kit. He just bought me for Christmas. He's
Wow.
like, "Thank you for just being there." And I was like, "Geez, you bought me like $120 kit
A
and
great
Australian
shirt as well.
dollars." Yeah, and I love
Yeah.
this shirt now, and I wear it every day. But like, it's hard to justify buying shirts for someone that you like but you don't
Yeah.
know what they were like. But so
Yeah.
when you started like the brand, the group, the three of you,
Yeah.
I do agree with you when it comes to the creative aesthetic side of Cult Kids. I really love the graphics behind the shirts, even the blog posts and the stories that you make. I love everything about it. I think that's what connected me to the brand. And
Right.
I think personally, I have an appreciation for shirts, but the way you market the shirts was my draw too. But what made you call it Cult Kids? I know every time, like I remember when I was a teenager, I told my parents I was going to a club called Can't Say, and they always made fun of it, saying, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to Can't Say, Dad. And he started laughing and told all his friends, is like, yeah, my son can't say where he's going. Was it calling or giving it a name the hardest part? And then how was it starting a brand for the business?
Yeah, do you know what? I can't really answer that because Rob actually came up with the name way back when, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the process was. So me and Davey originally we started a blog called Box to Box Football, and then the
Nice.
two kind of were merged, and then Cult Kits was a sort of better description of what the business did, basically. So, so I can't really answer for Cult Kits other than I do quite like it, and who doesn't like a bit of alliteration as well. Yeah, but Box to Box was Davey and my kind of invention. And yeah, well, I suppose we were trying to be not too kind of explicit about what it was we were doing. We're trying to kind of tap into that sort of, if you know culture. So yeah, I don't know, but Cold Kids I think really works. It's nice and short as well. And but interestingly, actually, we've been talking to some potential partners in China, and
Wow.
there's a slight issue with the name Cult Kits because the Chinese government aren't overly fond on the word cult. So we may
Nope.
need to rethink our branding if we were to go and branch out into China, but we'll see.
Oh, look, I think names is one of those tough things. I've been fortunate enough when I started like doing photography, I started a music blog and I went on tour with bands. I was really heavily influenced by the London sort of UK scene in the early 2000s. You know, I was a massive Foals, Arctic Monkeys, the Maccabees Vaccines. And I always looked at myself and I thought, how did these bands make these names? And I started a little music blog
Yeah.
called Adam Not Eve. And I used to go to clubs and events and people like, who's this guy? And I always like that alias name. So I think when there's a
Yeah.
brand as a name, it works well. And I do love Cult Kit's name because when I reference a special kit from my history, I'm like, that's a cult kit. Oh, like
Yeah.
that's for me, it's a bit more special. But
Yeah.
yeah, look,
Yeah.
what is something that is special to you about kits? Is it the memory, or do you think kits themselves just connect to people because of that? Like you said, when you bought a gift for someone.
Yeah. Well, that's a really hard question. I think there's loads of reasons why a certain shirt is kind of special to somebody. Um, I think,
Memories, yeah.
yeah, I think sometimes, but I think one of the things is we're talking to a guy called Neil Hurd previously, who is a kind of football shirt aficionado in the UK, and I was talking to him about this sort of issue, like what is it that makes a kit a classic or a kind of iconic, and we were looking back and we were saying often it might be because it's associated with a particular season that was really
Mm.
special. Perhaps that might be, we'll see less of that because, in the 90s, you'd have a kit for at least 2 seasons, sometimes slightly longer. So there's more opportunity for kind of memories to become entwined with that shirt. Perhaps that won't happen now because we change kits every season. I don't know. But so there's that kind of, if there's a link to a special moment or a special player or a special season, can do it. I think also, I mean, I talked about my favorite era being the 90s earlier. And that was because I was young then, and I was just getting into football. And I think, again, I think it's a bit like with music, actually. When you're in your kind of, that period between sort of 10 and 20, I imagine you sort of look back on that in terms of the music and think that was a great era for music, whether it was or it wasn't, and I think that's the same with football shirts, really. So I think there's that. But yeah, as you say, it can just be a particular moment, or a multitude of things. I can't even think of them off the top of my head, but there's so many different reasons that make a shirt special. Sometimes it's just the shirt was really weird. Like the kind of a good example of that, I suppose, would be the Bruised Banana, which, it was actually, that period in Arsenal's history was pretty miserable. So you couldn't say it's associated with, great. There's some great players who've worn it, Ian Wright or whatever, but you can't really say it's associated with a great team or achievement. But it was just so different, and it was it kind of, that shirt sort of set the tone for the following probably 2 decades, I guess, in terms of quite bold patterns and colours. So that's why it's important and now highly sought after shirt. So I guess there's so many different factors, but for me personally, I think it's just the shirts that really remind me of being a kid and just falling in love with football.
It's a big thought. I have this conversation with a lot of people where do we see the kit scene in 10 years time? Like, I do hope for a lot of us it's going to be booming, like we said, like music, because music never gets old. I think music's always in a way that we always get influenced by something new. One of my first music memories as a kid, I remember listening to Blondie, out of all artists, musicians.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad just playing that song in the background. And now for me, I think that's what got me into music. So looking at kits, for me, it's almost as if it does give me that memory. But I think even today's kids that we see, I look at them and I think to myself, like, one, manufacturers make too many of them now. So how are we going to justify the value of a kit now in so many years to come? Because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
But I think,
definitely.
I think like my favorite kit in the past 10 years that like makes me fight a lot of people is the United third kit this year, the black and white sort of camouflage design that they're all hating. Is there something in the current generation that you've looked at and a lot of people say, no, this is not going to be special, but to you, you think, well, let's see what's going to happen?
I do you know what? I'm not sure. There's not necessarily the shirt I can think of off the top of my head that I think will perhaps in years to come be really kind of sought after. I don't know, but what I do think is that that shirt and the kind of general trend towards more bold and kind of creative styles now has been born out of probably 2 decades of pretty kind of clinical and safe design. And I think football fans are desperate now for something a bit more, and so I think that's what we're seeing, this huge kind of kind of broadening of the sort of designs and colors that we're seeing now. So I mean, that one is an interesting one. It's a difficult time, I think, for designers, because they're trying to come up with something that's new and different and not too kind of derivative, and not being too kind of safe, but also not looking like they're just jumping on the kind of bandwagon. And I think there are some that's one what at the moment I'm not sure where it quite sits, and perhaps we'll have a different view in 10 or 15 years, as you say. I think the Dortmund home shirt, I'm not a massive fan of that either, and I know why Puma have gone down that route, because it's very kind of that 90s style and bold and all the rest of it, but not convinced by it. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting time for shirts. That period from 2000 to probably 2015, 2016 was, I don't love it, quite honestly. I don't think there were that many shirts that I look back on with a huge fondness. But again, it might be just because of my age.
No, I agree. I think I say this a lot too. I think the Umbro generation's early 90s was my favorite. I think United were so blessed with a lot of different variations. We did see the Cantona kit. We did see the infamous grey kit. They got, subbed at halftime. That blue and white one. I've got almost every Umbro kit from United, except for this one, because this is only sitting here because of you guys, or is it this one here? And I was fortunate enough to see that in person, to a photo shoot with it. And I did a series on it, which I can't wait to share. But I think Umbro were just different. And even Adidas at that time. And then when United went over to Nike after the Umbro sort of generation, and we saw a lot of those kits on the FIFA covers and stuff with Rooney, Ronaldinho, that era. I wasn't
Yeah.
a huge fan of that generation. There were some
No.
weird kits that Ronaldo wore at United. And I thought to myself, how, looking back at it now, I'm like, how did a lot of these kits get approved by clubs? And now looking at some of the kits, I'm like, geez, some of these clubs are just looking at the weirdest designs and be like, yep, that's going to sell.
Yeah, it's a really good point. We spoke to we've talked to a couple of designer, the guy who designed the Brazil 2002 World Cup shirt, and that template kind of got used in it. I think United had a version of it, and Arsenal did as well. And we were talking to him about that period and the fact that it was a bit of a change from the 90s, where anything went in the 90s, and suddenly it was much more kind of conformed, much more kind of conformity and all this stuff. And he said that one of the things is that the brands will often come up with quite bold, ambitious designs, but the clubs are very conservative. And particularly the big clubs that don't want to take a chance, don't want to take a risk. That has previously been the case. And he said that's starting to change now because for I don't know, whatever reason, but I thought that was quite interesting, really, that clubs are actually the ones a lot of the time who are much more conservative than the actual brands.
Well, we are fortunate because we do get to see people like agencies like we are, Asset FC, do something special for clubs in like around the world. So I do see fortunate times for designers now. I think a lot more manufacturers are looking at creatives and saying, hey, do you want to make something special? I did have a conversation with a certain gentleman from the UK that's coming out soon, where we spoke about the hit and misses of some collaborations. I think we're in a sort of scene now where kits are going through a lot of a change in a way that maybe that some may miss the boat because they're trying to try too hard. But I don't know. I think kits are always going to be special. We look at the crazy thing that we see with Pokemon now and how insanely priced they're becoming. And I wish my parents never threw mine out. Is there something that you ever had and you thought to yourself, I wish I never got rid of that. I wish I never sold that. Or is there something that you've always wanted and you can't get? I know you mentioned the Ipswich Town shirt, but is there something special? Like for me, it's definitely going to be the green and yellow United kit. I wish I had that.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever got rid of a shirt that I really regret getting rid of. I don't think I've done that. Shirts that I would really love. Oh, that's a really difficult question. There's loads. Do you know I would love something like the Cameroon shirt from Italia 90. I love that shirt so much, or even the Mexico away shirt, the red Adidas away shirt from that same tour, because that's the first World Cup I can remember. And your first World Cup is just like feels kind of unreal, doesn't it? It's like feels like something from another planet. So those two shirts, I just love the badge on the Cameroon shirt from Italia 90. It's just so great. And it's such a weird shirt actually. It's like that kind of two-tone shiny, like ill-fitting. The collar was like a plunging V-neck, but it just looked great. And they were such a great team in that tournament as well. So maybe I'll go for that. A bit random.
No, it's perfect. I think for me, like the Newton Heath based kit for United, it's going to be a hard one to find. Like I mentioned earlier before. So I'm thankful enough that you and the boys sent me over a box for photos, and it did come towards the end of the lockdown period that we had here. And I was lucky enough to get creative. I filmed some episodes, which will be going live earlier in the January. So this is why I wanted to chat with you. But like, I have never seen the Snowflake kit in person. And when Rob sent the box over, I opened it up and the first thing I saw was the Snowflake. And to me, my wife can even back this, I started crying. I think seeing that kit after, watching highlights, because I don't think I was old enough to even see Ryan Giggs or anyone wear that kit. I think that's the one kit as well, the Snowflake. I'm sitting up there because I don't want to sit in the box because it's going to get creased and I feel bad for it. But it made me cry. And then when I saw what the human race did with it, it sort of gave me a bit of a good vibe. But have you ever cried for a kit? And don't be scared to tell people.
Oh, that's I'm not sure.
I'm sure something's coming to the office and you're like, holy fucking shit. Don't worry, you can swear too.
Yeah, probably. Well, yeah, the shirt I showed you, the third shirt, that the white Ipswich Town third shirt was is probably the closest I've come, I guess, because uh, that shirt just takes me back to when I first got taken to football, really.
Amazing.
And my kind of love for Ipswich Town was um, kind of happened through my dad, who was a big Ipswich fan. He died about 10 years ago, so that was our kind of our shared passion, and so it's probably why I've sort of stayed so loyal to the club, through these last bleak years. But so when I saw that shirt, it just reminds me of those first games that I ever went to at Portman Road, and so yeah, that's probably the biggest kind of emotional connection I have to a shirt, because it just
Nice.
when I see it, it just transforms me back to being however old I was, 7 years old or whatever, and going to the football with my dad. So yeah, that's probably the closest I've come.
That's a nice one. I think. Do you ever remember going to football training sessions and smelling the grass when they freshly cut grass? Like that's
Oh
my
yeah,
favorite Sunday morning smell. Like just smelling the
yeah.
fresh cut grass.
My most evocative smell of football is going to Ipswich. We used to stand. There was two kind of terraces on either side,
Yeah.
which was standing back then. And I would kids would take a milk crate. So you could basically put it at the front and you could stand on this milk crate so you could actually see the game. So my dad would be there with the milk crate and we'd go to the game, whatever. But the smell that was the thing that whenever I smell it takes me back straight away, which was the deep heat. Because I was so close to the pitch, I could smell the deep heat. And that was really popular back in the sort of early 90s. There's a player called Chris Kiwomya who played for Arsenal as well, but played for Ipswich. And he had the shiniest legs. And he was just saturated in deep heat, but you could just smell it. You could smell it coming from the players. And yeah, whenever I smell deep heat, it just takes me back to being 7 years old and standing on the terraces.
I was the guy that wore Vicks, all that sort of stuff on your chest, like Patrick Vieira. Do you reckon there's a shirt out there of his match day issue and actual game worn that will have a stain on the shirt? Like that would actually be special. Like, can you imagine it on the wall? And it's like a holy grail. It's like the cloth that they found of Jesus Christ, where they had the Jesus Christ mapping, but on the shirt, it's actually got the Vicks still left over, and it's like this is Patrick Vieira worn.
Yeah, exactly. That would be nice. I'm sure they are. Yeah, I remember when that first happened. You're like, "What are you doing to the kit? Don't ruin the kit." But as you say, just adds to it now, I guess.
There's a lot of different sort of things that players have done to their shirts just for themselves to feel comfortable. I think we see that a lot now with the socks, where a lot of the players are wearing their grip socks under over the normal socks. Has there ever been a kit that you've come across and thought to yourself, "What did the player do to it?" Or have you seen? I know we've seen a lot of ruined shirts on Twitter. This is a random question. It's not on the list here. I just thought I'd ask you. Have you ever seen a kit come into the office and you thought to yourself, "Oh my God, what has someone done to this shirt?"
Oh gosh,
I'm sure you've seen shitty names on the back.
Yeah, no, probably. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I'm sure that's been the case. Yeah. I mean, we get plenty of shirts that come in tatters. Some match-worn shirts that have been torn to pieces and have got the kind of covered in mud and all the rest of it. But yeah, more than likely.
Well, I won't hold you too long. There's two more questions to go. Yeah. Is there something that's come into the office that, has changed the way you see football shirts in an art way? Or has there ever been a shirt, like just in a whole manner of speaking, that you and the lads had to fight over to keep? And not actually physically fight over, I'm sure. But I know for a fact, like for me and my friend Paul see a kit, like we both have that saying where it's like, yeah, you take this one. Is there something like that, like a mutual agreement between you three?
Yeah, there probably is actually. I think we've all got our kind of personal sort of favorite either eras or clubs or whatever. So I think if there is a really, I think that helps us to decide if we are going to keep a shirt. I think for me, the kind of shirts that have changed my view the most since we started CULTKITS, the shirts that have sort of changed my kind of view on football shirts and the sort of aesthetic around them is anything from the sort of 90s J League, which I wasn't familiar with really at the time. Yeah, exactly that kind of yes. Yeah, look at that.
Naughty.
Those shirts are unbelievable. They're just so great and they're just so different. And I think they just, they look so great now. They're so kind of bold and creative and just a bit crazy, quite honestly. And they just don't take themselves too seriously. And I'm all for that. So yeah, that they've probably been the shirts that I've over the last kind of 5 to 10 years of really falling in love with. And yeah, I love, they're just brilliant, aren't they? They're so great. There's nothing not to like about them.
Never. I think J kids even now, like they're still pushing boundaries. I saw the Chinese Super League do some nice things with Nike. So there's a big things coming up around the world rather than the top three leagues that everyone looks at. And I think that's one thing as a kit sort of, person now. Like my biggest goal for 2021 is one, stay away from the top three leagues and look in the lower leagues. Like I recently purchased some like lower German leagues. I found a lot of kits from Czechoslovakia, Czech Republic, Slovakia. I found some kits from like even the Yugoslavian era. So for me, it's just about like finding different things. Have you ever come across a random kit and you can't find a source of it and you still can't find it? I think one for me has, and I asked the boys about this one.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen this one?
No, I don't think I have. No, that's great. That's
and
really
I'm
nice.
still trying to work out if it's a fake or if it's real. So have you ever come across something and you think to yourself, either DHgate has made something amazing or history has not recorded this and it's like something we've missed in the 10 Commandments by Moses?
Yeah, yeah. Every so often, shirts come in that we have got absolutely no idea which club it is, which country or league. So usually we've got such a good community now on our social channels that we can go out and just ask them, and almost 99% of the time somebody will come back with an answer and it will stack up. So
is there someone with a PhD in kits yet?
Yeah, it's a good question. There should be. I can think of a few people who deserve one. But yeah, there's some, and I completely agree with you. It's fine having the kind of big club shirts, but it's so great when you discover a kind of random team or a shirt that you know existed that's really creative. And it goes back to the point I was making earlier that the big clubs are or have tended to be more conservative in terms of the kind of the colors on the shirts and sticking to traditions. Smaller clubs are less like that because they have less to lose, quite honestly. So they've traditionally been more adventurous and courageous with their design. So you get some brilliant shirts from clubs that you might not have even heard of.
Have you fallen in love with the club through one kit and now you have to get all of them?
That's a good question. I've always got a soft spot for 1860 Munich.
Oh, naughty. That's a really good choice.
I just love that. Just consistently have great shirts. You're going to pull one out?
For me, I fell in love with this Peruvian team.
Oh, wow. That is...
Alianza Lima.
Oh, that is beautiful. Look at the traffic in the middle. That's really, really different.
I bought one kit from a local marketplace called Gumtree here in Australia, of course, called Gumtree. It's like the biggest Australian thing, of course. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, I love like football kits in many ways. And I was like, why don't I fall in love with the team and hopefully become one of the first Australians to collect every single jersey from the 1980s and get every year. So far I'm 7 kits deep and I've still got a few more to go. Is there anything maybe you want to look at? Is there a team around the world or even like a league maybe?
Yeah, I would say, we sell a few, hang on a second, let me just find one.
Okay.
Where is it? This one here. So Club America, we sell we've got a few Mexican shirts, which is a great shirt. A few Mexican shirts on the website, a few Mexican clubs. And they're all brilliant. I love them all. So I think Mexico or kind of into South America, I think it'd be great. I would love to kind of find a club. I haven't done it and I should do really, but I'd love to find a club that to do what you're doing because I think that's brilliant. It reminds me actually of Football Manager. There was I can't remember the stories now, but there's a group of lads who always played with the same team, some kind of Swedish third division team or something.
Yeah,
and they started going over there to watch this team regularly as well, and they just they've got this kind of English supporters club now on the back of always playing them Football Manager. So yeah.
Well, that's the thing about football. Like, I know we all have our team. Like, I know people say you can't support more than one team. Like, of course it's hard. Penarol from Uruguay is my team. So I found one of their kits at a market and I was like, that's it. That's my Uruguayan team. Of course, Alianza Lima, Peru. But yeah, look, that's a part of the thing about football kits and just football in general. Like we connect with people and it creates friendships. And, you and the three lads at Cult, like it wouldn't have become what it is if it wasn't for football kits. Who knows what your relationship with your brother-in-law would have been if it wasn't for football kits in the many ways, you get me? And I think that's the best thing. It's an icebreaker, but it's also a conversation starter. The scene, the community is really strong and really safe in ways that we all help each other. I personally am so thankful for the relationship I have with you. And this is not a plug to anyone listening or watching, but honestly, if it wasn't for you and the lads in 2020, I don't know where I would have been. A lot of the time you've helped me with kits, even though that PSG kit, seriously, it's here. Here it is. This is the one that I bought off your website. You've probably seen it in your office.
Oh, it's beautiful.
When I saw this on the website, I bought it. That's the first thing. My wife asked me how much I bought and how much I bought it for. And I said to her, don't even ask.
It doesn't matter.
Oh, look, but I'm really excited to, I'm really excited to see what 2021 is going to bring for myself, but also the relationship with Cult Kids. I think I have to say this, like, again, thank you so much for helping, everyone and even myself during the year that was. But what's next for you and what do you guys want to push into the community?
Yeah, well, I should say I've seen the pictures you took in the most recent shoot. They are stunning. They are so nice. What's next for us? Well, yeah, we've got a couple of kind of big projects that we can't really talk about at the minute because
exclusive.
Sorry, I don't want to sound too kind of secret squirrel about it, but we just a couple of things that are going to be quite kind of big, hopefully big sort of bold ventures for us. And do you know what? This is a really boring thing for 2021, but we're hoping to move into a big, new, nice, shiny warehouse as well, which would be really exciting for us as well. So, lots of plans really. We're just hoping to keep doing what we're doing as well, because we don't want to. The thing about us is we always tried to set out to create something that we all liked and loved ourselves, really. So we don't want to stray too far from that. But if you just have to stay tuned, and we'll tell you about it anyway. But but yeah, lots of exciting stuff, and we just very grateful really for everyone who's kind of yourself and everyone who's supported us along the way, because it is just three mates who just have a passion for football shirts, and we've managed to turn it into something a bit more than that at the moment, and that's we absolutely don't take that for granted.
Oh, thank you. No, honestly, the photo shoots are going to get creative. Don't worry. There's a few more coming through, and
they're amazing. Seriously.
Whatever you guys do, I think we're all excited. Moving into a new place will just push boundaries. And I have to say to everyone listening and watching to this episode, check out the blog post, because there's some amazing content on that blog that you guys do. There's so much information that I didn't even know. I think I've learned a few things that I've had to write into my reviews. And personally, I'm trying to change the way I talk about kits, but I learn a lot from the website. So thank you for having an informative setup there.
Well, I should say that's Andy Gallagher who writes most of the weird stories. Most of we've never ever heard of either. So that's he's incredible font of football knowledge.
Yeah, and of course the graphic stuff that comes along with the kits also is amazing. I'd love to see some stickers in the future, because I'd love to have some of that stuff you guys make. Last but not least, if you weren't collecting football kits, what would you be collecting?
Oh, do you know what?
Don't say Pokemon cards, please. You don't sound like a Pokemon
don't worry,
card guy.
I want to offer. I think there's a big crossover between football shirts and trainers. Actually, I love trainers.
Ooh.
Big trainer collector. And so, I'm not a big trainer collector. I'm a big trainer fan. I have some trainers, but that's what I would be collecting. I think there's a big crossover. A lot of that kind of. I'm thinking back to the sort of casuals in the 80s as well. That was all about like having nice trainers and obviously clothes as well. Anyway, I think there's a big crossover there. Neil Hurd, who I referenced earlier, who's an absolute authority on football shirts, he's also an authority on trainers as well. So he's a kind of living embodiment of that crossover. So it would be trainers, I think. I think there's a similar kind of appeal with the sort of aesthetic and the kind of traditions and history of trainers as well. So I think it would be that.
A crucial question, actually, isn't that? Before I let you go, would you wear
Yeah.
Adidas trainers with the Adidas top, or would you be that person that cross brands and
Oh,
wears Nike with the
um,
Adidas top?
oh yeah, I think I would cross, but I do have a strong. I don't know. I've probably embarrassed myself there, but
I literally bought Umbro shoes so I can wear with my Umbro
is that
kits.
right? Oh wow. Okay. Okay. Well, no, I would cross over, but I have a sort of affinity for Adidas, really.
Of course,
Just because I think
the street
it's got
stripes.
yeah, and it's got such a long sort of association with football in the way that Nike doesn't necessarily have. So I've always
Yeah, of
and I love,
course.
as I mentioned earlier, I love Umbro, but yeah, that's quite a big investment actually to make sure your trainers match your shirt. I like that. It's great commitment.
It is. And look, I think that's one thing we'll all sort of push into when it comes to fashion of the kit and how it's worn. That's something me with my photos I'm trying to teach and even trying to educate myself is how I can wear a certain kit with a certain outfit. And that's something we're all going to learn over time.
So
Um,
also just a question for you on that. So
Go.
you were talking about Lotto earlier and those kind of brands that perhaps we'd love to see make a
Defunct.
comeback.
Yeah.
How are you gonna match those up with your shoes?
Well, I think like when I wear Umbro, I try to stick to something like Reebok. I think something a bit more sort of on the path of footballs in
Yeah.
the 90s and something a bit more brown and black, so leather. I try to stick to aesthetic with it, or Converse, that's a bit more not the top three. And
Yeah.
again, it's almost like I like to wear, if it's denim, I like to wear black or white. If it's corduroys, I can wear rolled up with the boots or something like Doc Martens. I
Yeah.
think that's for me something I like to look at. And again, when I say cross branding, it's almost like if I was to go black denim jacket and pants, it's about like wearing the right sneakers. It has to be Nike if it's a Nike jersey. So it's sort of a seesaw
Yeah.
balance,
Mhm. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And what brands would you like to make a comeback other than Lotto?
Umbro, 100%. I think
Yeah.
Umbro's doing well in a way like they did with the Werder Bremen. Even they did some like stay-at-home kits and even the Christmas kit. But I really
Yeah.
would love to see Umbro put a lot of their eggs in a basket and say, hey, I think Umbro Korea has the best lifestyle brand, but no one really knows about it because no one
Yeah.
promotes the Umbro Korea brand. I'd love to
Yeah.
see Umbro make a comeback almost on the way that Nike did with their bespoke designs for Korea
Yeah.
and Nigeria. So would you agree?
Yeah.
Do you think Umbro needs to push their boundaries again?
Yeah, well, I mean, they have kind of made inroads in the UK and obviously in South America and, as you say, Korea. But yeah, I would love to see a return of Umbro. We posted a picture of I think it was the Umbro, the England 2000 shirt, a Beckham
Hmm.
shirt on Instagram the other day, and a few people said how great it would be if Umbro had the England contract again, and I just couldn't agree more. It'd just be so nice. And also, it's nice, when you have a manufacturer that is from your country as well. There's a sort of synergy and a kind of warmth to that, I think. So yeah, it'd be lovely to see Umbro. Kind of, I guess it's probably unrealistic to think they're going to be back where they were in the start of the Premier League when they made like half of the league's kits, but
Yeah.
a few more would be lovely.
That's probably a good say. I think they are back, but I think maybe the focus isn't on them because Nike and Adidas have stolen the limelight. Even Puma now with what they've done with the Paisley stuff and all the amazing stuff they did with Man City. People may say they dislike it, but I think what Puma did for Man City is just change their approach to a football kit. I think all three kits they made was something different.
Yeah,
But yeah, we'll never see. But
yeah,
honestly, kits are going to just change every year. So who knows what Man City is going to get with Puma next year?
yeah. No, definitely. Let me just another brand that I would love to see back. Well, they're coming back, and
Can I guess?
go on.
Is it penalty?
It's not, but that is a great shout, by the way. Great shout. But no, we did a collab with Maber.
Oh
We made
wow, yes, good shout out.
we
I was
made a
going to ask you to show off something.
yeah, we made a tie dye collab with them. It's so nice.
Is
I
there
love it.
some still in stock? Because I wanted to buy one, but the boys were
I,
saying they're sold out.
they've all gone. I think they've all gone. Yeah, we made them in quite limited numbers, and they sold in like 2 days or something. But
That's a good.
Maybe
Yeah.
yeah. Maber's got such great tradition, obviously in Spain, with Barca and Sociedad and one or two others.
Hmm.
So uh, and yeah, they're back in the sort of football lifestyle space at the moment, which is really great because they're coming up with some really nice stuff. And I understand that they're in talks with some clubs as well. to start manufacturing.
We'll see a Reebok and Roma, hopefully, not New Balance. I'd love to see a Reebok make a comeback.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think one last shout out would be, I'm really excited to see what you guys do with the socks and a lot of other things that you're creating. Honestly, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. I know I'd love to speak to you a lot more, but I know it's a Saturday night and you probably want to hang out and just chill for a bit more.
Is there home defeat?
Yeah, don't worry. I think United's winning right now. Yeah, we're winning 1-0 against Watford, so I'm really happy with that. Saucy McTominay scored the goal, so I'm happy with that.
Very good.
Is there anything you'd like to shout out, or anyone you'd like to shout out and say hello to?
Oh, okay. Let me think. Well, not Paul Lambert. He's our manager. I'm desperate for him to be sacked. Let's do oh gosh, I don't know. I better say hello to Davey and Rob, really, which is a bit unoriginal, but I'll give them a big shout out because they do a lot of the kind of the hard slogging in the background, and so yeah, I'll say hi to them. I haven't seen them for a while, obviously, because we're in proper lockdown in the UK. So yeah.
That's definitely going to be a hard one when you finally catch up. You're like, do we hug? Do we shake? What do we do?
Yeah, well, we were just thinking about going back to football as well. I was able to go back to one game with 2,000 fans about the 15th of December, I think. But we posted a picture on Twitter today. It's from a few years ago. I think West Brom fans at Aston Villa. In the away end, and someone's just filming the away end, and it's that lovely moment where just before they scored, like the fans are sort of cheering and they stop and there's complete silence, and then it's absolute pandemonium. And we were just talking about that and how much we just cannot wait to get back to football. And
that breaks my heart, man. Well,
it's just nothing like it.
We've got a game next week here, and we're expecting 5,000 fans. And we all the only restrictions we have here at the moment is just wear a mask at the game.
Right. Oh well, that's great.
It's tough. Well, if you ever want to move to Australia, it's more than welcome to.
Yeah.
Look, football is going to connect us. Football is always going to separate us when it's a team that we love against each other. But honestly, I'm so fortunate not only to have met the lads, you three, but I think even connecting with you in many ways of like having an appreciation for design and football. So I'm always blessed and honored to be able to call you guys friends from, the UK and even just in football. So talk again in the future. But thank you so much for your time.